Welcome back to the channel. We're still assembling the engine for the C10, a little supercharged engine. We're going to get it right one day. So what we're doing first right here is checking the machine work for the intake to the heads and block. You want to make sure it's all flat, everything meets from the bottom part of it to the top. When you put your gasket on there, you won't have just the top or just the bottom meeting. You want to make sure you get a full seat all the way through, okay? Top, I put a bolt, there at the front and the back. Just kind of hold it down so you can look at it. Take a feeler gauge, feel through it, see if everything meets pretty good. And this one here, after having the machine work done, everything worked out good. Let's go to the rear seal. So the rear seal could be tricky. Depending on if you had your crank turned, if that seal got turned or not, to rear-round it, or if a groove was cut in it or whatever, you got to line these things up. They have to be centered. So get your paper gasket on there, get it where you want it, and get your seal, either your housing ready or put your seal in your housing, because this thing's got to be centered. If it ain't centered, you're gonna have a leak. So get it all set up, cleaned up, ready to put the seal on there, and we'll get it ready to install. So with your seal in it, put it on and let it relax. Where it's going to be at, put it on. If you got the one with the triangles there, most of them do, you have to grind some of those down if you buy one complete to get it where to line up. If not, you'll have to line it up. Without the seal, you'll have to line it up on all three triangles, 60 to 70 thousandths to make sure it is centered before you drive your seal on. It needs to be centered. I can't stress that enough. So get on there and torque it down, and make sure you lube it all. Make sure you got where it'll slide on easy. Don't put it on dry. If you're a assembler or a builder, you know that. But try to let it relax on there, and just tighten up a little bit at a time so it stays centered on the crank. That's worked for me. It may not work, and it may not be the correct way, but I've done it and it's worked. Then I went ahead and put my flex plate on there, and the reason why I went ahead, in case I got to do something to the engine to turn it or whatever, I'll have something to help hold it still. I think they were 65 and checked at 70. I'm not sure. On these Wendy's trays, make sure they're lined up with your dipstick tube and stick. If not, you're going to have issues. So people do cut the holes bigger or flare them out a little wider. If not, when you put that dipstick in there, it's going to hit the tray. And when you crank it up, you're going to hear some rattling. You're going to think it's a lifter or something, and all of a sudden it quits. That dipstick breaks off, goes in the bottom of the pan. So if you got the original tube, just go back with factory. The tube is almost at the hole. You won't have that big an issue if you go back with the original tube. Most people put the chrome, the dress-up tube in there and what all, and you're really taking a chance then. Just make sure the hole is bigger, or you got a new dipstick, and it lines up right. If not, you're gonna have problems. You pull it out, and the dipstick be missing. You're gonna know why. And don't ever pull one out and turn it over, slide it back in, because a lot of times it may bump it. Let's do these rockers here. Get these things here set up and lined up and what all. That's what we can do next. So get it all right. But let's listen in here. All right, guys, let's line these push rods up. Rockers. So have this nut down here where you can still move your slide. You'll have to disassemble part of it to get this on here. But what I'm gonna do, we'll bring this down. If you want to change the lock nuts when you're done, change them. We're just gonna get this where we're just lining the push rods up. Then we're going to set the valve. And also check get you some the machinist blue, put on there. Make sure you're centered when you do a setup. Okay, and that right there is going to be where I think I can get a good setting. I think so. Get that centered up. Go a little bit tighter. All we're doing is setting this rod, this push rod, straight. That way we can push it in there, line it up. It is time consuming. Then you won't, after you think you got it lined up, make sure you got side to side clearance. Okay, so after you center it, move it back and forth like I just did until you got just a little bit of clearance on both sides. Almost can't see it with the camera like it is. Oh, let's double check it. But just make sure it's lined up. It's not going to walk off on you. Okay. After he is lined up, snug him down. This can take a minute. Okay. Same thing with the other one. Because nothing's got any lube like that on yet. We just try to line them up. We don't have a 16 of them to do. I'm only going to do these two right here. We'll disassemble them and oil or roll her down. Then we'll adjust it. Holy cow. She's going for a ways, ain't she? This right here should line us up. Ain't bad. About even on both sides. Right centered. Okay. Should be okay there. You just want a little bit of clearance on both sides of your rod where it won't sit there and rub. Alright, so let's move on next to the adjusting of them. I'm going to remove this and get a roller lubed up, just the rollers and any spots. Then we'll adjust these lifters on this number 1, okay? So let me get that done right fast and we'll come back to you. Always check to see if your rocker is going to be centered on your valve stem. Now these have the oil in the lifters, so they're going to be a little bit wider than what the pattern should be, but make sure it's lined up for you going any further. Now, adjusting these, there's a couple ways. Actually, there's hundreds of ways that people adjust these. Like I say, I got my way. I hope everybody's having a good weekend. It is Memorial Day weekend. I'm out here trying to get this thing together. A little bit of traffic, you know, it ain't bad, a little bit, but the way I do it is there's a couple of ways. So after you get all your lash out of this, some people spin them, some people raise them up and down. I raise them up and down. It makes it a little bit easier that way. Running all the lashes out of it. So just raise it up and down so you don't feel any more. And you may do this a couple times. So you know you got it about right. You just don't want any lash in it. Don't get in a hurry on it. After all the lash is gone, some people say, let's turn it a half a turn. Let's watch that plunger in there, okay? If we can see it. I'm going to be on this first one here. I think we can see it. Now we'll do the second one there. I'm getting about the best shot I can get on it. Let's go a half a turn and see where we're at. The plunger just left the ring. Okay, and that's where a lot, when you adjust it, your half a turn will work okay, but if you'll tighten them down just where that plunger will leave the spring, you'll be just fine. Just where it leaves it. Okay. Same with the second one. It just left the spring. The top, the little spring holds the retainer. It's a retainer for the plunger. So if you do that, you're gonna be set fine. When that lifter gets oil in it, everything will tighten up. It'll run okay. So if you got a different setup and you know, gosh, there's so many ways you can do this, but that's one of the easiest ways. Is tighten them down to where the plunger is gone. Now let's say the intake's on it. You just want to change your rockers. Well, just tighten them up to where there's no lash in it, and you can probably turn them a half a turn and get by with it. Some say 3/4, some say a whole turn. You know, that's up to you. This is the way I do it. But a half a turn does take it right off the plunger retainer, and that's pretty much where I want to be. Anyway, I hope this helps. There's been a couple of questions about how to adjust these the easiest way. And no lash, half turn, you're okay. 3/4. I wouldn't go further than 3/4 myself, but a half turn is fine. You're going to be set okay. All right. So I hope this helps. If not, send me a message and I'll try to do a another private video or something to send somebody more detail deep into it. But anyway, that's the way I adjust them. I got 14 more rockers to line up of the push rod guides, 14 more to adjust, and the long block assembly will be almost completed. All right, so let's see what we can get on to next. So I do them to where it just leaves. Probably about 25, 28 thousandths, and kind of look at something, get your gauge out, look at 28 thousandths, so you'll have a visual on about how close it is. And it'll run fine. I've done it a few times, and it's worked. But anyway, we got the intake down, torqued. We're ready to rock and roll this thing. Next week we'll do something else to it. I think we're going to start lining up the supercharger to the front of the block. So we'll do that. And here's a torque sequence if everybody ever needs one on that intake. And depending on what you're using, aluminum or cast for your torque. Oil pan's on. That part's ready. At least we got that done. We're completing it slowly but surely. Won't be long. We'll try to fire this thing up. Anyway, hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope this helps. We're moving on. This is a little preview pic of what's coming up. To line everything up in the front, the water pump, the pulleys, all the belts, and get it ready to fire up. Sure want to thank everybody for watching. And look again next week for another video.